Hello, welcome to a Creator's Deep Dive where I analyse my own writing from an outside perspective and look at how Resurgence navigates deeply human themes. Space opera. The genre paints on the largest possible canvas. We see sprawling empires rise and fall, starships wage war in the silent void, and heroes defy impossible odds. We are familiar with its grand scale, but what if that scale is used to not just explore the vastness of space, but the deep, often fractured interior of the human and non-human psyche? The novel Resurgence presents all the trappings of a classic space opera, but it uses this framework to tell a story that is far more intimate and grounded. It argues the most significant battles are not fought against a tyrannical empire, but against the ghost of your own past. This is a story about trauma, not as a backstory, but as an active, persistent character, and its exploration of this theme, coupled with its nuanced representation of identity, is what makes it a truly compelling work of modern science fiction. From its opening chapter, Resurgence establishes that trauma is not a footnote. The novel's portrayal of triggers is particularly effective. The sight of Aurelium, the very crystal she was forced to mine, doesn't just make 001 sad, it induces a full-blown panic attack, dragging her mind back to the toxic, suffocating air of the mines. A specific model of Imperial droid isn't just an enemy, it's a direct link to the massacre of her friends and the death of her first love, 271. Her flashbacks aren't clean narrative exposition, they are intrusive, disorientating, and they shatter her reality. This is seen most starkly in her mental chaos misguided attempt to train her, by forcing her to confront these triggers. His logic is that of a soldier, face your demons to conquer them, but the novel wisely shows the damage this causes, as 001 later tells him, fire doesn't make you stronger, it just leaves you empty. Resurgence argues that you cannot brute force healing. This exploration of trauma culminates in one of the book's most creative concepts, the Everscape. After being brutally beaten by the villain Kharkov, 001 falls into a coma. But she's not merely unconscious, her mind is trapped in a psychic void that is a stunning metaphor for deep, dissociative depression. The Everscape is described as a sentient darkness that feeds on negative emotions. It actively works to keep its victims by amplifying their despair and their self-loathing. This is a brilliant personification of the cyclical nature of trauma, where feelings of worthlessness can create a prison from which escape feels impossible. And how is she saved? Not by a magical spell or a sudden jolt of heroic willpower. She is saved by connection. Violet, the crew's brilliant but emotionally guarded engineer, enters a psychic battlefield to serve as an anchor. The sequence that follows isn't about fighting monsters. It's about the difficult, terrifying act of reaching out to someone who is lost in their own darkness. The climax of this rescue is not a grand speech about becoming a hero. It's Violet's simple rule and honest admission, I need you. Not an idealized version, but a real, flawed, hurting person. Resurgence persists that this is a true path to healing, not platitudes, but the profound power of genuine human connection. This focus on authentic connection extends to the novel's excellent representation. The romantic relationship between 001 and Violet is a masterclass in the slow burn. It develops organically from mutual respect and protection into a shy, fumbling and ultimately beautiful confession. Their queerness is not treated as a plot twist or a statement, it is simply a fact of who they are. It is normalised, as is the established relationship between Toshi and her kidnapped partner, Olive. Representation goes beyond romance. It's woven into the very fabric of the world. The human characters, Violet and 001, are a minority. On a planet Galfraxiel, they discover one of the last bastions of human civilization, a community of refugees that subverts the typical human-centric narrative of space operas, forcing a perspective shift. The novel even critiques hollow representation through the character of Lady Featherstone, a high-ranking officer in a supposedly good rebellion. She dismissively refers to 001 as a liberated slave weapon, reducing her to her trauma and her utility. It's a sharp commentary on how even progressive movements can be guilty of dehumanization, seeing individuals not as people, but as symbols or tools. Divergent uses the epic scale of space opera to explore the deeply internal. It understands that the galaxy is not just a collection of stars and planets, but of people carrying their own histories, their own wounds. It argues that true strength is not found in being invincible, but in the courage to face our own broken pieces, and in the connections we forge that help us, and slowly put them back together. It is a story not just of a rebellion against an empire, but of the quiet, arduous, and essential resurgence of the Self. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you really want to understand the book in detail, you can actually read it. I'll link it in the description. It's on AO3 currently. I do plan to officially release this book when I've finished it. It will be a finalised, the one on AO3 is a draft, but I will finalise it, and when it's released I will do an announcement so you guys can buy a physical copy or a ebook copy.